Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to The Wealthy Sailor. If you've noticed, my background's changed, and that's because I'm currently at work, and this is the best place I could film for now. The work hours have gotten a lot slower, at least temporarily, so I'm taking advantage of the time by trying to make some more content. And the background is the side of a tent. Best thing I can do because there's actually stuff I can't show on camera around, so I have to frame in everything very specifically so that, I can continue with the filming. So, today's video is about generational wealth. Now, I'm assuming everybody knows what that means. I mean, it means when you pass down wealth and it's inherited through generations. Generational wealth can be very helpful for adult children. It can give them a much needed safety net if they ever need it, and it can also be, depending on how you do it, like a business or something, it can also give them employment. So it's definitely a good thing to have. In fact, one of the discrepancies going on right now in different race relations is the fact that a lot of minorities have a problem with generational wealth being inherited. It's something that we all need to worry about, and honestly, I think we all owe it to our kids to kind of help them out as much as possible without spoiling them. But it's something to think about, so that's what this video is about. Now, despite what you might think, most rich people, and a rich person for the purpose of this is somebody who has $1 million more, do not inherit their money. In fact, less than 50% of all millionaires inherited their money. So I just want to make that very clear. In fact, an interesting statistic came along while I was researching this is that 70% of all inherited wealth is gone by the second generation. The third generation, 90% of it is gone. Now, there's a lot of reasons for this. One of the most obvious reasons is that normally you have more than one child, which means all your wealth is being divided by 2, 3, 4 children. So you're automatically cutting it down by that. And then by third generation, same thing. I mean, one of those 4 children might not have kids, but I mean, 3 of them are probably having 2 or 3 each. So you're talking about 6 to 9 divisions there. And if it's not grown by generation 2, by generation 3, it's so diluted anyway that it almost doesn't even matter because it's spread out so much. Now, another problem is where the wealth goes. 50% of all inherited wealth, 50% is invested. The other 50% is spent on consumerisms. This is all done by a study from a leading financial firm, and they handle a lot of these cases, and they did their own internal studies to see where money's going. Now, so we gotta talk about why this is. Like, why is it being spent and stuff? Because you think if you're the child of a rich family, you know a little bit about money, but it turns out that's actually not the case. Evidently, most children of wealthy people know very little about money, and the reason being is because the parents want to create an idea that they have to work for what they get, which is good. Then, in doing so, they just refuse to talk to them about money, and that turns into something bad because now they might not know anything good, like, they're going to get $1 million after you pass away, but they also don't know what to do with that money when they get it. So I really think there's an important middle ground here that we all need to think about and we all need to try to achieve, where you don't need to talk to your kids about your money, but you probably do need to talk to them about money in general and wealth and different investment opportunities, and I don't know, teach them that spending all the money they have as soon as they get it's probably not the best way to do things. So what do we as parents do to prepare our kids or grandkids for generational wealth? We already talked about teaching kids about money, and to be honest with you, I already made a video that goes into detail about different things, and even aside from that, there's a lot of good resources online about how to teach your kids about money. Some of the other things you can do is, one, invest in real estate. The thing is that according to the same financial firm that I pulled the stats from earlier, they found that people that invest in real estate tend to hold it a lot longer because they like the passive income because they can see it, as opposed to them getting an IRA where it's all like cash and numbers. There's something about owning a property that makes kids want to retain it a little more. Now, although that's a good idea and it's definitely a step in the right direction, I don't think that's a foolproof plan. I think you have to understand the idea of setting up a trust. And I didn't know this, but apparently a lot of wealthy people do not do detailed trusts, or some don't even do wills. I'm a huge fan of this. When my father passed away, Pennsylvania has a law that in the absence of a will, everything has to go to probate court. Now, I was in the military, and I had family members there that I didn't really know very well, that I haven't really spent my life with, like his side of the family, who I grew up with my mom for the most part, so I didn't really know his side of the family all that well. But the fact that he had a will made everything so simple. It made everything very less argumentative. For example, if his sister got something, no problem. It says it in his will. That's what he wanted. She gets it. No arguing, no bickering. It's just clear and black and white. My father said he wanted this, so this is what's going to happen. No problem. So I'm a really big fan of wills, and then you can get a will and a trust all set up for like $300 on LegalZoom. Now I'm not sure how good it is. I don't use them. I'm not being sponsored by them. As always, we don't have a sponsor, but if you want to help me out, click the links below for Acorn and Robinhood, because that does help me out. But you can get them for pretty cheap, and if you're in a time in your life where you're worried about handing wealth down, then you can spend $300 on a will and a trust. Just saying. So the other thing you can do is start a business. I'm kind of a fan of family-owned businesses. I didn't know this, but 70% of all businesses in the United States are actually family-owned, which is really cool because, I like people kind of doing stuff on their own where the harder they work, the more they can make and stuff. Like, everything's on them. I think that's kind of better. That's something that I prefer rather than, working for somebody else. Not saying we can all do that, but if it is possible, you can. Now, 70% of all small businesses are passed down at some point during the business's life. Only 30% of those actually succeed 2 years past the time they're passed down. Apparently, it's a stat from the Small Business Bureau, and it's actually pretty depressing. Come on, if somebody works their entire life to create this business and this entity, and they're working hard on it, and then they pass down their kids and it fails 2 years later, that's pretty bad. Like, that kind of sucks. Now, it's not necessarily the kid's fault. I mean, keep in mind that all businesses have to constantly evolve. Even I don't even know what the oldest business in the United States is. I know the first business that I've ever remember being a business by today's standards, like a corporation, is the Dutch East India Company, and even that went out of business. And at one point, that was the biggest company in the world. So most businesses will go out of business eventually. But I think it's an interesting tell, or at least correlation, that they happen within 2 years of the pass down. So maybe it was a failing business enterprise that just kind of took that one no more. But the study I was reading suggested some of it has to do with the fact that the child didn't create it. It's not the child's baby. So the adult children kind of just don't put in the same work or make the same sacrifices to make things happen as the adults do. But on the flip side of that, one of the other possibilities could be is that it was a dying business entity anyway, and then the adult child taking over realizes it, and because there's no emotional connection to it, because they didn't work for 30 years to build it, they just decide to shut it down and kind of put the dying business down. I haven't been able to find research one way or the other to see which one of those is more right than the other, but they're both possibilities. But if you do decide to start a business and that's what you want to pass down to your kids, or if you already have a business and you want to pass down to your kids, then it's really important that you get them involved as early as possible. I think even from as somebody who's an adult child, I think it's unrealistic for your kid not to be involved in your business, and then you're about to pass away and you want to pass down and they not know anything about it. That's just unfair. They don't know what to do. Like my uncle was really big in the HVAC, and I don't know anything about that stuff. I mean, I do some woodworking, but I don't do HVAC or plumbing or electrical. So had he had business and wanted to pass down to me, it's like, well, that's nice, but I don't know how to do any of this. So get them involved and start teaching them what you want. And I really suggest the idea of you don't work until you die. Pass it down, retire, and then work on sort of a part-time business, kind of make sure the business is staying straight. But you really need to let them kind of take the helm and them grow it. So while I finish up this video, I just want to leave you on one thought that I read from The Millionaire Next Door, and it's a saying that's kind of been staying with me. It says, the first generation creates wealth, second generation grows the wealth, and third generation spends the wealth. And being as a kid that I don't have any family wealth or anything like that. Like my son, if everything goes on the track that it is now, my son's going to be the first one in my family to inherit anything from anybody in the family, which is good. Um, but speaking as somebody from there, I will tell you that I'm not sure how my family's been in this country for 6 generations, and we have no wealth to show for it. But I'm working to put an end to that now. Well, anyway, guys, I hope you learned this video. I actually had a lot of fun researching this video. What you can do to help me out is give me a like or a subscribe. And thank you for watching, and keep saving.